Okay, thank you so much for joining our call today, Ian. We're so thrilled to have you with us here today. Before we dive in, we want to introduce ourselves first. My name is Sahasra. I'm a sophomore at Westview High School, and I'm the outreach lead for this team.
My name is Shakti. I am part of Super Sigma Robotics. I am part of the Drive team, and I'm also part of Outreach. And I'm an eighth grade at Stolen Middle School.
Okay, we're ready to proceed. Shall we proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Okay, so first we would love for you to tell us about yourself and your line of work. You can provide information on, your name, your academic qualification, your professional experience, and more. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on the interview. My name is Ian Nace. I'm an entrepreneur and engineer I have a background in software development and product innovation. I have a master's degree in product development from Florida State University's Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. And I've been involved in technology and startups for many years. I worked on mobile apps for startups while I was in college. I actually developed my own iPhone applications and sold them on the App Store in high school. So, for the past few years, I've been involved in drone technology. I first found out about drones when I was working at a startup, and they gave me a DJI Mavic Pro.
Mhm.
Before then, I had just flown some like Walmart drones, and they would get caught in the wind and fly into a tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But these DJI drones, they would just were the technology I thought was amazing. They would stay perfectly stable in flight. I could fly them like miles away and still see like a real time display on my phone of what the drone was seeing. So that's what really got me into drone technology.
Mhm.
And then after I got out of college, I started a company called Zing Drone Solutions. And our first product was a digital license plate for drones. It
Mhm.
was to for compliance with the FAA in the US and the ASA in the EU.
Mhm.
So that was our first product. We sold over 1,500 of them.
That's
And now we're working on our second product called the Z Scan, and that is a drone detection product. And we're working with prisons and airports to create a secure perimeter around the facility. And I'm from Florida, but I joined the Oregon UAS Accelerator in Pendleton, and actually was working with one of the high school students from the robotics program out there in Pendleton last summer. So, yeah, really excited to talk with you guys and share a little bit more about what we're working on.
Yeah, it's really impressive to
We're
hear.
excited to hear.
Yeah. So our next question is what inspired you to pursue a career in STEM? You kind of already spoke about like how you got into drones, but like what inspired to go into the STEM field?
Yeah, so I've always, ever since very early age, very interested in computer science and programming. I took the AP computer science class in high school. I don't know if that still exists.
Yeah, it's still there.
Oh, okay, okay. So that was Java. And then I started learning for iOS. I had to learn Objective C at the time, which has since turned into Swift. So I was always really interested in just how computers work and programming in them. Python is probably my favorite programming language.
Mhm.
And then I started like experimenting with drones, started seeing like what's possible with them. I actually in the early days of Zing, the idea was to create like this drone delivery network where people could use the same drones they already own to make deliveries.
Mhm.
And so I built a mobile app for that. It was kind of like an Uber Eats, but for drones. But
Mhm.
there was a lot of like regulatory challenges around that.
Mhm.
But yeah, ever since early age, I've always been very interested in programming and computer science, and that's really just been my passion for quite some time.
Yeah, that's really cool to
That's good
hear.
to hear. Yeah, so you also kind of answered this question, but when we're talking about your company Zing, what is your primary goal? Like, what is your goal as a company?
So our mission is to improve drone safety and security
Mhm.
by really focusing on drone detection technology. So in the United States, there's over 1 million drones that are now registered with the FAA, and there's probably 5 times as many that aren't. And all of these drones are capable of they're capable of doing great things with innovation. They can be used for tools for innovation, but they can also be used for nefarious purposes like flying contraband into prisons is a big one today, and also kind of like the clueless, the careless, and the criminal operators are the ones that we're trying to stop in their tracks. So what we do is we kind of give a platform to security teams to take action. So our system actually, if someone sees a drone doing something that they shouldn't,
Mhm.
then our system tells the security team exactly where the pilot is of that drone. So it's basically a tracker for both the drone and their pilot. And so our mission is really just to prevent unauthorized drone activity at airports, um, correctional facilities, and stadiums, places like that, where drones can be potentially an issue.
That's
Yeah.
like a security for drones, security, sort of like,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I feel like that's like really useful in today's society.
Because you don't know what people
Yeah.
can do. Yeah.
Um,
Yes, for sure, for sure. It can it's the technology is awesome, but not not everyone is using it for the best purposes.
It
yeah.
has to be put in the right hands, yeah.
Yeah. Our next question is, what is your favorite part of your job?
So my favorite part, I like solving complex problems,
Mhm.
and I like seeing ideas kind of come to life. So they come from like a concept into like a real world application.
Mhm.
There's this definition of innovation from MIT, which is you have invention, which invention is just you come up with ideas,
Mhm.
and then you have commercialization, which is bringing products to the market.
Mhm.
So at MIT, they say that innovation has to be a combination of those two. You can't just be inventing things, you
Mhm.
have to be inventing them and commercializing them. So that's really what I like to do is create products and bring them to the market and figure out ways to solve problems with them and sell them.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah, another question is, how would you describe your experience in launching a business, and what advice would you give to other people who are looking to like go into entrepreneurship?
Yes, so entrepreneurship is probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. It's very difficult,
Mhm.
and you have to wear a lot of different hats. So you're the marketer, you're the person selling, you're the person working on the product. There's just so many different things you have to do during the day. It becomes like having three full-time jobs kind of back to back. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. um, so it's interesting because like if you have a job, then you kind of have like a guaranteed pay, things like that. With entrepreneurship, there's no such guarantee. If you're not solving real problems that people are willing to pay for, then there's really there's really no money that is generated. So it's an extremely risky endeavor, but at the same time, it's very exciting. There's a lot of and you can work on a lot of innovative things, but it's a very competitive uh, place to
Yeah.
be to try and bring a product or a service to the market.
Mhm.
And once you get it to work, there's yeah, then like competition starts popping up. You got to compete with people to get sales. So it's a lot of work, but in the end, it can be very rewarding experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned this, but how long ago did you start your company?
So Zing started in 2019
Okay.
with the drone delivery concept.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
the
yeah.
thing about entrepreneurship is it's like the market is really what determines if the company is going to be successful or not. So you have to have real people willing to pay you for the problem. So we had to make a pivots in order to make the company much more viable. So that's when we learned about the digital license plates, decided to develop one ourselves, and then we started thinking about, all right, now that these digital license plates are out there, how can we give people the tools to use them?
Mm-hmm.
And so over time, we just started working on like how what can we do that will be accepted in the marketplace and people are willing to pay for, and that's kind of how we got to where we are today. So the company's existed for I think 6 years now, but we've gone through a couple of pivots to make the company generate more revenue and be more investable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. Our next question is what experiences or projects have shaped your approach to problem solving in STEM, and what advice would you give people like us who are interested in going into the STEM fields?
So one of the most impactful projects was developing the Z scan. So um, yeah, the last year uh, I was I sold one of my drones on Facebook Marketplace. It was a big drone, a DJI Inspire 2,
Mm-hmm.
and the actually the U.S. Air Force 2 weeks later started calling me, and I had thought it was an issue with like our digital license plates or something like that. So I returned their call, and it turned out that that drone was used to fly the contraband into the prison, and then it crash landed, and it was registered to my name.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that's when
Yeah.
at the time I was pretty scared, but then I
Mm.
was like, well, maybe there's an opportunity here.
Mhm.
So that's when we started thinking about Zscan, and we saw the Oregon UAS Accelerator starting to accept applications. So we applied with the Zscan, and then it just kind of went all the way from concept to like a prototype that we developed in Pendleton, and then we did a demonstration of the product to the superintendent, and we actually flew mock contraband into the prison, and they were just amazed at the technology. We started learning a little bit more about how big of a problem this is around the United States. So that's when it was just an idea, and then it started turning into realities through that accelerator, and now we've got a product that is almost ready to launch on the market.
Mhm.
Oh, and then for like the emerging professionals,
Mhm.
some advice I would have would be really just to embrace failure as a learning opportunity. I think any successful entrepreneur or business, there's a, you can see like their highlight reels online on social media, everything like that, but there is a lot of trial and error and mistakes that are made along the way. So if you ever make mistakes, just know that everyone does. It's part of the process. And then I would say for me, like developing iOS applications in high school, working on real projects to try and sell on the market. that was a really valuable experience for me to just learn about kind of how to market and sell. I think selling is also a very important skill to have as an engineer. Selling will kind of determine even getting jobs in your career path. And then also just surround yourself with people who maybe don't always agree. Maybe they'll challenge you, challenge your ideas, and you'll need to like back up your opinions and assumptions. And because in out in out in the real out in the real market in the real world, it's not everyone is going to agree with you. There's going to be a lot of people who may like try and bring you down, but you have to be very resilient and firm in your beliefs, and also just be adaptable. Technology is changing really fast right now with the AI and some of the recent things that are coming out. So just being able to adapt in real time is very important.
Yeah, that's really great advice.
Yeah, one thing that I was curious about is like if I think about entrepreneurship, one thing that I would think about is like the hardest, I mean not the hardest, but one of the challenging things is, advertising like exposing your brand to like the world so that they can get interested in, buying and doing partnerships and stuff. Like how do you like properly advertise? Because I don't know if that's a very clear question. That's just a question.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I think, yeah, that's a very important part is like getting the brand out there. And a big part of advertising for me, which is not a very common way to do it, but
Mhm.
creating like controversy is is a good way to really get posts and ads to grow organically. So a lot of companies, like, yes, you can use paid advertising that kind of forces it to be shown to a lot of people, but in order to really grow an audience like organically, you have to make posts that not everyone is going to agree with. You have to be pretty strong in your opinions, and kind of like people that comment on it or react to it in a negative way actually make it grow more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that over time I've started leveraging a little bit more as
Yeah.
more controversial advertising. Like, for example, drone pilots, not a lot of them are big fans of this digital license plate requirement.
Mhm.
So that kind of is controversial by itself. So yeah, I would say like it's very easy to spend a lot of money on paid advertising. You just need to make sure that whatever you're putting out there, there's a metric called like return on ad spend, or kind of return on investment. You have to track that very carefully, or a lot of money can be spent and not a lot of results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you. Yeah, we learned that beginning your journey in STEM can obviously be challenging. So if like resources, if we're talking resources, what resources would you recommend for people who want to get involved in either entrepreneurship or just in STEM fields in general?
I would say, well, now there's so many free online resources, even just YouTube tutorials.
Yeah.
What I would really recommend is working on your own personal projects that may be valuable to other people, maybe putting out those projects that you create on platforms like YouTube. And I would recommend using these tutorials as kind of tools to build to build your own projects. And I think going like beyond the curriculum at school, learning about new programming languages, prompting with AI, things that will get you further ahead in in like the in the future, just staying on top of technology and learning, looking at articles. For me, I like Y Combinator. It's like a big tech startup accelerator. I like watching some of their videos and a few podcasts, like entrepreneurial podcasts, just to stay um like well, I guess if you have like a specific passion or industry, just always try and stay in tune with what's the latest going on and subscribing to podcasts, YouTube channels, anything
Yeah.
that would help with that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good advice. Thank you.
Thanks.
So this is kind of an interesting question we like to ask all the STEM experts we've interviewed so far. So if you could go back into college or like school, what would you have learn more about based on what you know now, or what would you have like changed? Or done?
Yeah, so for me, I was my undergrad and high school, I was really focused on like the technology side. So computer science, I did my undergrad and was always just coding, and that was my primary focus. If I could go back, I would probably take more classes or just learn more about some of the other skills like selling and marketing, and also, I guess, like communication skills, things like that. Um, so I would probably try and like broaden out from like just tech, learning just about tech, to looking more into like the marketing and the communication and getting the business skills earlier on. And it's really easy to start a company, just to like start one. All you have to do is just file, register your corporate name, and then you're kind of in business. So I would have probably just tested out maybe starting an LLC, trying to get some more real world like business type experience. And maybe like for me, I would probably have joined some startups, some places that are that you can have like a direct line of communication with the CEO, with other people that are working on solving like business problems. So I would recommend probably some things like that. And yeah, I think that for engineers specifically, I think we all have a bit of an advantage to people who just know the business side. So if you can have a combination of engineering and business experience, it'll make you really stand out in in the market.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.